everybody. Well, Merry Christmas. Man, it is so good to be with you today, all of you here in person at the Forney campus, as well as each of you there online. What a great opportunity to be here today. Last week, I had the chance to be just a part of the congregation. It was so relaxing because it's really stressful worrying about what stupid thing you're going to say when you get up to preach. And so I got the chance to just sit and relax and got the opportunity. I was sitting right over there listening to Pastor Rocky Hernandez really minister to my soul. Those of you that are online, boy, how fortunate are you to have Rocky as your campus pastor. And for each of you in this room, I just want to say that every week you get to listen to our worship team, and I got to listen with no stress. And listen, you ever wonder why those people are so believable? And the answer is because they believe everything that they sing. And they actually are very serious about their faith. And so I'm grateful for our church. I'm grateful for each of you. And I just love the Christmas season. The Christmas season is an absolute blast for me. And this week we kind of really kick it off, I guess, in full because we have the Sharing Christmas coming up. And I know that a lot of you have already decided you're going to participate. I know some of you kind of haven't gotten around to it yet. Well, guess what? You are in this is the ninth inning. You got to get to it a little bit. And here's what I would say to you about the Christmas season. And this is what I love is that we get the chance to live with open hands. And so it's about giving. It's also about the greatest gift ever given, which we are to receive in Christ Jesus. But here's what I would say to people. Some people are a bit like, what do I do? Do I do it like a football? Do I do a bicycle? Listen, you do, and I tell my kids this all the time, whatever endeavor they have, whether it's academic or athletic or social, I say, listen, I'm not asking you to be the best. I'm asking you to be the best you can be, all right? Give it the best effort that you have, whatever it is that you can do, whether it be that football or that bicycle. Maybe you can build a kitchen in Guatemala or a church in Peru or in Ghana, Africa, wherever it is. I'm just saying you do the best that God has called you and created you to do. I want you to be the best version of you possible. And I want you to be a kind of person that is finding ways to be generous and to shower that upon other people. And my wife and I, we decided a few years back that one of the things we wanted to do was share our home. We have a lot of people in our house. Just with it's me, my wife, and my 5 kids, and now I got a son-in-law. So I still got my eye on him. I'm still not sure, but I'm glad I've got him. His name is Holt, and he'll be joining us this year. And so every Christmas Eve we have people over at our house, and this is my last time, so I won't preach here the next 2 Sundays. I will be preaching here Christmas Eve, so I look forward to seeing all of you then. But afterwards, after the last day, 6:30, we have a dinner at my house, and all of you are invited. Now, don't show up with 40 people, but if you have a smaller group of people that would like to come and get to know us, we would love to get to know you. Maybe you're going to be all by yourself on Christmas. We want to make sure that nobody ends up by themselves. Our family wants to be able to pour into you and bless you. That's also true for each of you online. If you're in the area, we would love for you to join us as well. So just want to throw that invitation out there to you. It'll be about 6:30. I'll send out an email. Just be watching for it, as well as on social media. I'll just try to get all that stuff out there, and just know that you are invited because we love the Christmas season. And those Christmas Eve services, how special are they? I'm just saying that if you have never been to one of our Christmas Eve services, you want to make sure that you're a part of those. Well, to our new series, we're talking about Hope Alone. That introduction seemed a little bit familiar. Maybe it's a play on words of some sort. You can probably figure it out for yourself. But we're all in a story, aren't we? We all have this narrative that we're living in. Anybody seen the documentary 13 Lives? Anybody see this? It's the documentary about the soccer team in Thailand that was stuck in a cave for 10 days. Anybody see this thing? Man, it was unbelievable to watch that. It was excruciating in some ways when you realize that they were spending 10 days. They didn't have any electricity. They didn't have any food. They had water, but of course they had to, relieve themselves. And so they were, defiling their own water. And so it was really crazy. It was really crazy that they were locked in this for such a long period of time. And there was finally this guy, I can't remember if he's from Australia or from England, but he's a specialist, and he pops up out of the water, and there they are right into the darkness. Man, boom, light into the darkness. And these kids, imagine they haven't seen any light in just days and days. And so their eyes pop back, and he is blown away. He's overwhelmed by the moment. They're overwhelmed by the moment. And basically you think, wow, how incredible is this? They've overcome this conflict, and then you realize they still got to get them out. And that is a real challenge. And when I watched this, I was intrigued because this is both a true story and very similar to the other stories that we love to see in life. And if you ever ask yourself the question, why do we all like the story that has the same plot? They all have the same plot. Have you ever thought about that? There is a protagonist, and the protagonist has a conflict, and there's a climax, and in the climax, the protagonist overcomes the conflict. That's the case for about 99% of the movies and the books that you will read. Now, occasionally, there is a story in which the conflict overcomes the protagonist. Does anybody know what that's called? It's called a tragedy. Any tragedy people out there? You people are sick. No, I know what you would say. You would actually say you're a realist. That's what you would actually say. You're a realist, right? And all of us see this as the case. You guys may need a little help, but the world does seem like it has a lot of tragedy in it, at least for now. Perhaps someday it'll be different, but for now, we all live in a world that we know that the longer it takes to resolve a mystery or deal with a kidnapping or overcome a sickness, the more hopeless the situation becomes. We know that this is true, and so all of us have this common experience that the world in some ways seems broken, at least for now. And there's really nothing worse than hopelessness. When a person doesn't have any hope, it's really bad news. And I've learned this from years of being a pastor. When somebody comes in and they don't have any hope, I know that we are in a really tough situation. Whether it be working with an abuse victim or someone who's severely impoverished, someone who's struggling with suicidal thoughts, I guess that's kind of an end result, or someone, a marginalized ethnic group, not just locally, but around the world. And here's the thing, I'm not just a pastor, my wife is a social worker, so we spend a great deal of our time helping people deal with tragedy in their life. And the thing that is the most difficult to overcome is the lack of hope that so many people have. Their life just feels so heavy, it feels like it's crushing them. They feel like they're being crushed by the darkness. So Merry Christmas. Thank you all for coming today. I just want to you're like, wow, Pastor, this was tough. Man, way to bring down the Christmas vibe. Got up this morning, so excited about coming to church. We sing some good songs. And then delivering the message is Pastor David Downer. I get it. But truthfully, we got to talk about this, don't we? We got to talk about hopelessness because during this, season, ironically enough, more people feel hopeless in this month that is supposed to be filled with hope than any other month of the year. Maybe, this is the year that ripped your family apart. Maybe there was some decision that was made by you or someone else that basically you will not be together with each other this year. Or maybe you lost somebody close to you. Maybe this is the year of grief and bereavement. We've got a bereavement service coming up, not this week, but next week, where we're going to try to help some of you get comfort and joy in a very difficult season. Or maybe this is the year you told yourself way back at the beginning of the year that this year was going to be different. You were going to make some big changes financially, socially, relationally, physically. And here we are now, 1 month from the end of the year, and you've devolved. I mean, you've gone the wrong direction, haven't you? And it's tough. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I bet you that financially, emotionally, physically, relationally, that there are some people in this room that feel like you are at a really dark place at this moment of your life. Some of you have some real positive energy. You come in right now and you are filled with hope. But I want you to know that today's message and really the Christmas season should be very special for those of you that feel like you are in desperate need for hope. So let's lay a little groundwork for this whole series, and I got to tell you the truth. It's going to be a little bit of yeoman's work. We're going to talk about a thing called salvation history, and I know some of you are thinking to yourself, oh no, I don't want to go through history. And I would just say, I get it, but listen carefully. There is a payoff at the end. If you will hang with me for just a little while, I will keep these notes aligned with some slides. I got some pictures for you because for simple people like me, it's very helpful to have them. So early on in the Bible, God chose a people for himself, and he said, you will be my people, and I will be your God. And God didn't love them more than other people on the earth. He just chose them, and he didn't choose them because they were actually numerous or powerful. As a matter of fact, we find out in Deuteronomy chapter 7 that God chose them for the opposite, that they weren't numerous and they weren't powerful. And I think that God always wanted to make sure that he got the credit and that no one in all of history is able to say that somebody kind of worked it all out. See, we sometimes like to work from a front runner's position. That's kind of the American thing. But in reality, God is not looking for the front runner. He's not looking for someone to do for him what he cannot do for himself. God's always had a plan to save his people, the world. And his plan was to do it through a specific people. They would follow God, stay on his hip. The world would take notice of their faith in God. That was the plan. So it starts here in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Hang with me, read along. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So here's Abraham. He's placed in this land. And God tells Abram and Sarah that they're going to have a kid. And he tells them this long before they have a kid. They don't end up having a kid until he's 100 and she's 90. Don't picture that. Now, I'm not casting shade here. These are some seriously impressive life goals. I'm telling you. I'm adding it to my bucket list. They named a son Isaac. I'm just saying. They named this son Isaac, right? Abraham and Isaac. Isaac has two sons, Jacob and Esau. And so there's increasing. Jacob has 12 sons, and that's his family tree. Joseph sold into slavery, eventually winds up as a servant to Pharaoh in Egypt. He goes there. A famine comes there in Canaan and brings all the other brothers to Egypt. So now they're all in Egypt, right? Those 12 brothers had kids. Eventually, those 12 families become 12 tribes, and those 12 tribes are scattered, are settled throughout this land that even to this day we know as Israel. What you need to know, though, is that was just the facts. This story is way sicker than you think. Now, just recently, 2 weeks ago, I decided that I was going to read through the Bible cover to cover again. It's been a while since I've done it. I actually read the Bible a lot, but I wanted to just kind of do it again right here. It's been several years since I've read all the way through the Bible, so of course I started right there in Genesis, and I was reading through the book of Genesis, and there was a point in which I said, oh my gosh, these people are messed up. I mean, I'm telling you, Abraham pimps out his wife twice, and when he's going to have a baby, he decides to have it with a slave girl. Now, you want to know the weirdest thing about it? That wasn't his idea, it was his wife's. And then you got him sacrificing Isaac, got some child sacrifice going on, coming from, and it seems that comes from God. We don't even know what that's all about. And then Jacob, he's a liar and a swindler, cons his brother Esau out of his birthright. Then he goes and gets tricked by his, it comes around, goes around. He gets tricked by his father-in-law, who he wants to marry one girl. He thinks he's marrying her, but the father-in-law slips in the night of the consummation of the ceremony. He slips in a different sister. No, I ain't kidding. Y'all like, oh, you just play. No, I am not playing. This is what happens. And then, so I guess that somehow justified him. He doesn't just sleep with those two. So he ends up marrying both of them, and then he ends up sleeping around with slaves as well. Jacob plays favorites, right? Joseph was their favorite son. They didn't even try to hide it. 11 brothers were jealous, and so they got so mad they sold him into slavery. Now, I've been mad at my sister before, but I'd never considered selling her into slavery. And listen, and just a few generations in, man, we're just a couple of generations in. I mean, these are the people that God chose. And man, this whole family is flying off the rails. Kind of makes you feel a little bit better about your family, doesn't it? You thought yours was messed up. Already the plan to bless all the families of the earth through the family of fear appears to be on shaky footing. And by the time you get to Exodus chapter 1, these people, man, they had multiplied like bunnies. These families had become tribes, and they were gigantic. Kind of like the people of Sea Life, right? I mean, we are prolific. We have about twice the number of babies in our church as the average church does. I don't know how that actually happened, but we've got it. No, I do know how it actually happened. And can I just say that inviting your next door neighbor to church is a much easier and cheaper form of church growth. But we do appreciate your commitment, so whichever way, we're good with it. So there were so many Israelites, though, now in Egypt that Pharaoh sees them as a threat to Egypt's national security, so they enslave them and oppress them, and the people cry out to God, and God sends Moses, because that's what God does. He always sees a remnant. He's hearing it, calling out his covenant people, calling to him, and here he goes. And then you get the 10 plagues and the crossing of the Red Sea. And you get this promise from God in Exodus chapter 19. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. In other words, this was a shot across your bow. This is what I'm capable of. How I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all of the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. You would think that they would use this as a wake-up call. This is a great opportunity for them to regroup, to kind of get back on the right path. And God tells them, look, if you obey, this will be awesome for you. You will be my people and I will be your God. And they're like, great, what does it mean to obey? And so God gives them these 10 commandments. You've probably heard of those before. And in chapter, he gives them 10 commandments, but they can't even keep the 10 commandments. As a matter of fact, by the time that Moses comes down with the 10 commandments, he's put them in stone, that they're down there breaking the very commandments that he's telling them to avoid at that moment. They've certainly done the first two. Oh, Aaron, he's up there. He's taken everybody's jewelry, made a golden calf. And he said, behold your God. And they're like, what? Moses is like, what is going on? And there's some indication that there was sexual immorality going on at the exact same time. Probably some materialism, jealousy, covetousness. We don't even know. They were breaking the commandments before Moses could even deliver them. It's not going well. Not at all. I mean, it sounds simple to keep 10 commandments, doesn't it? I mean, simple enough. I mean, it's easy for my wife. I mean, my wife, she loves structure and rules and protocols and lists. Absolutely loves her lists. Me, on the other hand, I'm wired a little differently, actually a lot differently. I only think that you need to obey the rules when it's not a stupid rule. Anybody else like that? I got a lot of autonomy in me, makes me a decent leader, makes me a sketchy follower. And it sounds like that's how it was for the Israelite people. I mean, they were struggling like me. They were struggling to follow the rules, even the Big 10. So they end up with 613, right? Because they wanted to make sure they protect the other 10. And so it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they just keep failing more and more and more. And by the time Moses comes down, man, it's all messed up. They are on a bad, bad course. And it keeps getting worse. Because on their way to the promised land, you know what they do the whole way there? Remember, God's just rescued them from slavery. And they're complaining the whole way that they don't like the food that he sent with them. And God told them he was going to drive out the nations, but they didn't trust him. You get to the land, they're like, we can't take over these people. We can't take this land. We don't have enough strength. God told them they could, and they disobeyed. So he sent them to faith building school in the wilderness for 40 years. Now, some of you in this room have been to faith building school in the wilderness, and it wasn't a lot of fun. I would suggest you learn your lessons a different way than going into the wilderness. You see, God told them to do it. They didn't do it. And here's a teaching moment for you, just for a second, kind of a side note. Everyone thinks of sin as the bad things that we do, and that's correct. But we are equally living in sinful disobedience when we aren't doing the good that he has commanded us and called us to do as well. Can I tell you something that I'm a little bit tentative about sharing this with you, but I'm going to share it anyway because the problem is in our culture, everybody's kind of trying to overly parse this. I'm just going to let you know this is my own personal life. I'm careful about this even when I'm preaching because I don't want to seem like I'm soft on sin, but here's the thing. I've stopped calling it sin in my prayer time. You're like, what? You see, I am an expert at justifying and making things gray. You see, it's easy for me to talk about the sins that is this in, is this out? Well, that's kind of in. It's in sometimes, out sometimes. Listen, it's easy when it comes to sin, but it's different when I say, and here's what my prayer looks like. God, I saw this area of disobedience in my life, and I recognize that disobedience is sinful. Because see, it's not just about getting the bad things out. It's about getting the good things in. Obedience is about the things you don't do and the things you are supposed to do. What God has called, what is God, and maybe that's just a side question for you today, is what is God calling you to do? What is an area of disobedience that you find in your life? Maybe you need to stop trying to figure out, is it really wrong or something? Listen, if he tells you to do it and you don't do it, then it's sin. It's rebellion, and that's how they were living their lives. As a matter of fact, it cost them dearly because they enter into the promised land after these 40 years. God told them to drive everybody out, but they didn't. Manasseh didn't do it, Judges 127. Judges 129, Ephraim didn't do it. Judges 130, Zebulun didn't do it. Judges 131, Asher didn't do it. Judges 133, Naphtali didn't do it. Disobedience, 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 disobedience. And God tells them in Judges chapter 2 that these people are going to be thorns in your side for the rest of your existence. And by the way, that prophecy is still true today. Just, you don't believe me? Then you're not following the local news. I mean, you're not following the national news, or the worldwide news. Well, I can't even get that right. It's worldwide news. Stuff's happening over there in that Israel-Palestine area. Look at what he says in Judges chapter 2, 1 through 3. I brought you up from Egypt and brought you into the land that I swore to give your fathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land. You shall break down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this that you have done? So now I say, I will drive them out before you, but they shall become thorns in your sides, and their God shall be a snare to you. You read that? Anybody else starting to get a feeling here that God is growing pretty frustrated with the squad that he's assembled to reach the world with? Got to feel kind of like Jimbo Fisher and his Aggies feel right now. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sorry, I'm just kidding, Aggie fans. Take it easy. I mean, I'm sure it'll get better after your bowl game. Oh, wait, you didn't qualify for a bowl game. That's something completely different. That's rough, isn't it? That was mean. It's okay. It's hard for us as Bama fans. We probably aren't going to get in. So, oh well. So fast forward to 1 Samuel chapter 8. The Israelites tell God they want a king. All the other nations have a king. God says, you don't want a king. They're like, yeah, we want a king. They're like, no, you don't want a king. They're like, yeah, we want a king. God says, all right. Just like we do sometimes do as parents. Our kids wear us down. We're like, you're not going to like the way this is going to end up, but here you go. We'll give you a king. So he gives him a king. He's like, but God tells Samuel, look, give him a king, but warn him what it's going to be like. He's going to tax you. He's going to take your sons and daughters for his service. He's going to take your fields. He's going to own your livestock. When there is a king, the king is Lord. He owns it all. But the people insisted, so God gave him Saul, and Saul was the first king of Israel. Now, what's interesting is that Saul didn't even want to be king. On his coronation day, Saul was hiding in the baggage. He was hiding in the garbage or the baggage, depending on how you translate that word in Hebrew. He was hiding on the day he was supposed to be proclaimed king, which is really understandable because you know who was king before him? God. Those are big shoes to fill. So he started off okay, but the Spirit of the Lord departed from him because he was involved in witchcraft. The king got involved in witchcraft. Now, we've had some sketchy presidents in the United States, but I don't know that any of them have been involved in witchcraft. Unless you read QAnon, then apparently there was. I'm not sure. And you get David. David's the next king, man. He's Israel's best king, which is like kind of crazy because you consider that this guy takes a man's wife, commits adultery with her, murders him, and then lives in a lie about it. And he's Israel's best. The best. David has a son named Solomon. Solomon becomes king after David died. And Solomon starts off as a godly king. He's got all this wisdom, but he has a weakness, and his weakness is women. Between his wives and concubines, he ends up with 1,000. You kidding me? 1,000? The smartest man in the world has 1,000 mother-in-laws? I mean, I'm not that smart, but I know better than that. But many of these women, they worshiped other gods, and 1 Kings 11 says that Solomon was led astray by them, and he has a son named Rehoboam, and Rehoboam is an evil king, and there's this guy named Jeroboam, and he's like, nope, we're not going to follow you. And so Jeremiah takes the 10 tribes, and then the 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin, remain in Judah, and so now we got a new map. Let's put that map up there. There it is. We got Israel up north, that's 10 tribes. Down south, those are 2 tribes. Those are 2 different nations now. It's been split into 2. Division. And this is when things really go off the rails. Because Israel has 19 kings, every single one of them is evil. Judah has 19 kings, 1 queen, 12 of them are evil and worship pagan gods. And when they worshiped the pagan gods, the people did the exact same thing. And eventually, in 722 BC, as an act of judgment from God, Assyria came in and conquered Israel. So now we're left with just Judah and Benjamin, and that's it. In 600 BC, though, they get sacked as well. Babylon comes in and attacks Judah, takes them back. That's where we get the stories of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel in the lion's den, and the fiery furnace. And eventually, God brings a small representation back to Jerusalem. They rebuild the walls of the temple. They're back on the right path for a minute, but in short order, they return right back to the pagan worship. And at that point, God goes dark. Nothing. No word. No voice, no light, nothing. No prophets, no angels, nothing. For almost 500 years. And every generation that passes, they had to feel more and more and more hopeless, didn't they? We're not talking about just a short little period. We're talking about God screaming through silence. It was a dark time in Israel's history. There's no leading from God, no protection. It had to feel hopeless. A Seleucid king named Antiochus Epiphanes, he comes in, takes control of Israel. He walks into the Holy of Holies in the temple, which is the most sacred place for the Jews, and he slaughters a pig to Zeus. There is some record that he possibly defecated in the Holy of Holies, which is called the abomination that causes desolation. It was pretty much the most offensive act imaginable to the Jewish people, and they recognized, I guess so, just completely done. Later on, in this intertestamental period, this is between the Old Testament and the New Testament, Israel is conquered by Rome, and Rome has a completely different strategy, kind of let them produce in their own land, but the reason they produced everything wasn't for themselves and for their children, it was to send it back to Rome. So it's so repressive. It's a system of injustice that almost is more systematic and in some ways worse. And all they can think about is Romans here, Romans there, Romans here, Romans there. And they've got to be thinking 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years. Yeah, it's pretty set. God's moved on. And it's understandable, really. I mean, I've read the Bible. I mean, he gave us chance after chance, and we blew it. Now he's washed his hand of us. Casey Coates was telling us that he has an intimate friend that had a dog, and the dog's name was Taffy. And Taffy was a really hyperactive and disobedient dog. He was not potty trained well. He would tear up furniture in the house and really would not do anything that they wanted them to do, that the owners wanted him to do. Well, fast forward a few years after they finally decide they're just going to live with this crazy dog, and they find some kittens find their way, some lost stray kittens find their way to their house. And when they get there, they start feeding these kittens, and over the course of days, they grow attached to these kittens. Well, Taffy gets out of the backyard. These kittens are being kept on the front porch, gets out of the backyard, runs around front, and slaughters every one of these kitties. And so what this really special friend to Casey did is he took Taffy, put him in the car, drove him to the other side of Dallas to a neighborhood that he had never been to, miles and miles away, dropped him off, and just left. That's pretty ruthless, isn't it? I think that's pretty much how the nation of Israel felt at this point. And I think that's probably how some of you feel right now today as well. You feel a little bit like Taffy, don't you? Like you pray your prayers, but it's just like they bounce right off the ceiling and they come right back to you. I mean, you think to yourself, I'm just a screw up, man. You had 100 chances, you blew them, and you messed them up. And you're wondering, I think God may be done with me. It's been so long since I've heard from him. Listen, I want you to know that if Israel's story ended here, it would be one of the greatest tragedies ever written. This would be a story that would not have a happy ending. They had God on their side, but they squandered it. And now it's silent. Nothing. But the intertestamental period, that 500 years, was not the end. It was only the intermission. And I know that because in Luke chapter 1, after 500 years of silence, it says, chapter 1:5, it says, in the days of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah, and he and his wife had daughters of Aaron, and their name was Elizabeth, and they were both righteous before God, walking blameless in all the commands and statutes of the Lord. They haven't given up. They just keep putting one foot in front of the other. They're being obedient to what they know that's put in front of them. They don't know if God's even listening. But now while he was serving as a priest before God, when his division was on duty, according to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And the whole multitude of the people were praying outside of the hour of incense, and there appeared to him an angel of the Lord. This is the first appearance of an angel in 500 years. He had to be thinking, what's going on here? I hadn't even heard of this. I mean, not since the scriptures of old, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John, and you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he will be great before the Lord, and he must not drink wine or strong drink, and he'll be filled with the Holy Spirit even from his mother's womb." And look at this, and he will turn or return many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God. God is going to turn the people back to himself. And here's the deal. This wasn't even the way he was doing it. John was just delivering the message. The message was a person. Luke 1:26, in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, who was of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And he came to her and said, "Greetings, O favored one, the Lord is with you." Verse 31, "And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. He will be great and will be called Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over the house of Jacob, not temporarily, not for a season, but forever. And his kingdom will be no end." After 500 years of silence, 500 years, everyone convinced that it was done. The darkest days were at hand, and God sends a resounding message: "I'm not done with you. Oh, it's true you wanted me off the throne, and I gave you what you asked for the past 1,000 years. It has not worked out for you, but all of that was bringing you to this place where hope is about to break forth, and the light of the world is about to change everything. Aren't you glad that there's a God who will never give up on you, that even when you are faithless, he is faithful," as we see in the Bible? What a great message today. And if we could just get that, maybe, just maybe, we could live with some hope. Leave with some hope. You see, what's crazy is that our unfaithfulness is actually where God's faithfulness is most on display. And so to anyone in here today that you've kind of wandered from God, I've got to tell you, he's right there. You don't even have to walk back to him. He's right there. And if you're not hearing from God in this season of your life, or it's a dark time, you can't perceive the presence of God, those prayers keep bouncing off the ceiling, you look around and you don't see any hope, you're finding yourself struggling with depression, perhaps even anxiety, don't lose hope. He is with you. He's not done writing your story. It's just the intermission. But I understand the feelings. I really do. Because on January 2nd, 2011, I was in a car wreck on a Sunday afternoon. I was driving from a restaurant over here called Brady's, and I was driving behind Starbucks. And someone who was not even a citizen of our country was driving across that, trying to cut across the parking lot, flying through about 40 miles an hour, never saw me. There was some, I was kind of coming from behind Starbucks there, and they smashed in the side of my car. And it was a pretty serious accident. I broke my hand and finger and arm, but the worst part of it was what it did to my back. And I'd never really had back pain before, but some of you are sympathetic to what it can be when you mess up your back really bad. It's called sciatic problems, and so you start having a stinging and burning feeling down both of your legs, and eventually your foot gets numb all the time, and the pain is almost unbearable. And so I started trying to do the things that I needed to do. I went to the doctor, and none of the medications seemed to work, except for the hydrocodone. That seemed to make it a little better for about 4 hours. And then I went to PT, and PT didn't work. I went to chiropractic, and that didn't work. I went to acupuncture, and that didn't work. I was trying anything. And then I went to the back doctor, and he started trying to do injections, and that didn't work. And the pain just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And right in the middle of it, I realized that all I was thinking about wasn't how to be a father. I wasn't being a very good one. Or how to be a pastor. I wasn't very good at that in that season. I wasn't very good at being a husband, because all I could think about was when would I get my next hydrocodone. Fortunately, I've seen it what it had done in so many people's lives. So I took the bottle, I gave it to my wife, and I said, "You give me one of these every morning, you give me one of these every night, so I can sleep for 4 hours. But I want to make sure that I can't afford to get addicted to this stuff. And so I gave it to her. And I'm a little embarrassed to tell you that because I'm supposed to be like a pastor, right? And I'm starting to feel a little hopeless in that season because I know that I'm getting up Sunday after Sunday, and even in the middle of a sermon, I start thinking about 4 hours in, right? You can imagine I'm taking one at about 7:30 in the morning. So at about 11:30, I'm starting to get a little bit itchy up here, and I'm just wondering, is this how it's always going to be? And this part, I really question as to whether or not I should share it with you about it, but I couldn't get up at night. The problem is that once you get over about 40, you start having old man pee every night, and and y'all know what I'm talking about. And young people are like, what? I don't get it. You will. And so, but it took about 20 minutes to get out of bed, and so I began to keep a trash can next to the bed as a pee bucket. And so one day I woke up in the middle of the night, and it had been an incredibly rough week. And the hydrocodone had worn off, and apparently while I was under the influence of the hydrocodone, I had peed in the bucket and didn't know it. And so I went to pick it up, and it slipped out of my hand, and I fell on top of the bucket, and the bucket spilled all over the floor. And I'm laying there on the floor, curled up in a fetal position, trying to fight off an addiction to prescription pain medication. And I can just tell you that moment of hopelessness, in which for the very first time in my life, I thought, God, I know my kids and my parents and the church, they need me, I know, but I'm fine just dying right now. I don't want to go on like this. This is just too dark. This is just overwhelming. So I get it. I get what it feels like when God is not answering your prayers and you try thing after thing and you don't seem to be making any progress at all. And it doesn't matter if it's your fault or someone else's. It really doesn't, does it? I mean, maybe you understand what I was feeling, and maybe we both should understand what the Israelites were feeling in that moment. But here's what I know. The story wasn't over. I mean, the story wasn't over for me. The story wasn't over for the Israelites, and the story isn't over for you, because the crying of that little baby in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago was actually the voice of God. And when God spoke the word became flesh and made his dwelling right here among us, right in our mess. And his life would lead to his death, and his death would lead to the darkest day ever. Because on Friday, when they laid him in that grave and they rolled that stone into place, there was no chance, there was no light, there was no hope, or so it seemed. But it was only Friday, and Sunday was coming. You see, there's always hope when there's a God like ours. He specializes in it. It's his story, therefore it's yours. It's why you want to see the protagonist in your story, you, overcome the conflict. And I've got news for you. You've got everything you need to do so, not because of your own ability, but because of what God has already done through the person and work of Jesus Christ. And I don't know where you are today. It may be a wayward child. It may be an empty bank account. It may be a shattered marriage, a barren womb, a crippling disease. Maybe it's even fair to say that you look back over your life and you have absolutely blown it. I'm here to tell you God can redeem it, and this is our cause for hope. He has been working. We are on a movement that God is doing great things today. And somebody's going to break free from that hopelessness in this moment right here. I'm praying for a breakthrough in the middle of your meltdown today. Would you bow your heads with me for just a moment, whether you're online or here in person? See, today, whatever it is that is pressing in on you, I've got news for you. The light is about to burst forth. And in this moment, those of you that are hope-filled, that this Christmas season is extra special for you, would you just try to share a little bit of that with people around you? Just would you cover them in prayer, because there are people in this moment that find themselves in the darkest days of their lives. online, in the room, across all our other campuses around the world that are right now in a very dark place, wondering if God even cares about them. Maybe they've blown it. Maybe they've stayed in their sin too long. Maybe they've made too many mistakes. Maybe they've disqualified themselves once and for all. And God can speak into their story today. And he can speak into yours. The only question is simply this, is will you receive it? Because hope is not a concept. Hope is a person, the person of Jesus, who died, who laid in the grave dead, and on Sunday rose so that you and I might experience life. Father, I believe that in this room there are some people that have nothing more than hope, but hope alone is enough. And today they would put their hope in Jesus Christ. That they would recognize there is victory to be had and the answer is found in Jesus. You see, today, even as your head is bowed, I just want you to think about this for a second. Is God calling you to tell somebody that you're ready to enter in that season of hope? You see, I'm going to end our service today with our prayer partners down front. We're not even going to sing a song. We're just going to be dismissed in a second. And Satan will do everything he can to keep you from coming and praying with one of them. But some of you need to just come down that aisle and say, I need hope for my marriage. I need hope for my family. I need hope for this physical problem. I need hope in this addiction. Or maybe I just need hope in my finances. And it may seem minor to you, but I'm telling you, it's not minor to your God, that if you find yourself in that dark place, light is ready to break through. So even as our prayer partners come, you're listening to God, who will be sensitive to this moment. Heavenly Father, we trust you and praise you for the victories that have been won. I pray that no one would suffer in silence anymore. They would be open and honest, transparent as to what's going on in their lives, so that they can receive what you have for them and able to give to others. And it is in Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Now may the grace of God go with you this week, and may you walk in abundance as you walk in hope. God bless you, and you're dismissed.